I'll be honest with you friends, it's probably because of the strong AAA-leaning nature of much of the Game Awards focus, but the announcements featured there seldom resonate with me. That's noteworthy because this year was a very welcome exception. This is Little Akiba Games, I'm Patrick, welcome back to the shop. Before I get to the real meat and potatoes of this video, which is of course the Sega Power Surge reveal, I want to take a moment to talk about Visions of Mana. The Seiken Densetsu franchise has seemed really rudderless over the last couple of decades, but it really appears as though remakes of Secret of Mana and Trials of Mana have helped Square Enix find their way with it, as the influence of those remakes on Visions of Mana is obvious. I'm really excited to watch this game materialize because Seiken Densetsu is an underappreciated pillar of Square Enix's catalog, and it's high time it returned to prominence. The main course, however, had to be the Sega Power Surge reveal, where Sega announced and showed off new upcoming installments in the Crazy Taxi, Golden Axe, Shinobi, Streets of Rage, and Jet Set Radio franchises. But as we would soon find out, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Bear with me here because Sega really hasn't given me much footage to work with. I'll start with Crazy Taxi, which I'll just call Crazy Taxi 4 until proven otherwise, and I'll really be doing that with all of these games for convenience. It certainly looks a lot like a proper Crazy Taxi, although the introduction of police chases feels like it might be so much of a disruption to the series' established and effective gameplay loop that it could undermine its overall mission entirely. But I'll try to remain optimistic. I can see why they went in that direction. Need for Speed sells, after all, and the brand of driving that Crazy Taxi is known for certainly meshes well with that kind of element. Shinobi 4 is by far the most striking of the games shown off in the Power Surge teaser thanks to its particular visual direction, which really harkens back to another certain beloved Sega game that I wouldn't be surprised to see reappear as part of this Power Surge initiative. If you know, you know. Classic Shinobi titles like The Revenge of Shinobi and Shinobi 3 always put more of an emphasis on the action than the platforming, but Shinobi 4 seems to be breaking from that style here for more of a balanced approach. This game looks really good, and I hope it isn't going to take very long for Sega to turn it around, because I'm ready to play it now. I'll be honest, I kind of questioned Sega's decision to include a new Streets of Rage title in the Power Surge, especially a fully 3D one, after the runaway success of Streets of Rage 4. That isn't to say that the presumable Streets of Rage 5 doesn't look good, but we'll definitely have to take some time in the lead up to its launch getting to know it. At the very least, initial glimpses of the game seem to imply that Sega has the right idea with it. Hopefully we see a lot more of it soon, because the comparisons to Streets of Rage 4 are going to be unavoidable. You might as well steer into them. Jet Set Radio 3 is probably the Power Surge title with the least to lose. There are only 2 games in the series prior to it, and they are both very fondly remembered to this day. The Power Surge teaser depicts a sequel that is playing it very safe, which makes perfect sense. This isn't an IP that has overstayed its welcome in its current form at all, it's simply long past time for a new installment of it, and clearly Sega knows that. This game is going to get a lot of love from the player base simply by existing as long as Sega sticks the landing. They seem intent on doing exactly that. The one I'm kind of worried about is Golden Axe 4. It looks like they're trying to make more of an action-adventure game than a beat-em-up, and that's frankly the worst way to make Golden Axe. Hopefully there's something really compelling going on with this game that we can't really glean from the short glimpse of it that we got at the Game Awards, because it really looks like the weak link in this whole initiative as things stand right now. Now, based on what was shown at the Game Awards, these 5 games are all that comprise this Power Surge campaign for the time being. However, you always have to pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes as Sega proceeded to go on a mad trademark renewal spree that should have any old-school gamer excited. I'm only going to gloss over a few of these here because my expectations aren't super high for a lot of them, but we have trademark renewals for things like Alex Kidd, Juoki or Altered Beast, Kid Chameleon, Afterburner, and House of the Dead that certainly have their audiences, and hopefully Sega can make the most of them. Then we get Super Monkey Ball. It has been a hot minute since we've had a new installment of the Super Monkey Ball series, and honestly I'm up for anything that is in any way Marble Madness adjacent. With Banana Blitz and Banana Mania available on current platforms, it would be fantastic to see a new iteration of the franchise right there alongside them. It sounds like Sega is in agreement there. Eternal Champions is a series we haven't heard from since the Sega CD, but when Street Fighter IV came along in 2009 and apparently taught the entire fighting game development community how to make fighting games correctly, we saw franchises like Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct elevate themselves to levels of FGC respect that seemed at one point like their IP holders weren't even interested in attaining. I'd be lying if I said Eternal Champions wasn't conspicuous in its absence, along with a couple other franchises I could mention, during that time, because a franchise revival through this new enlightened era of fighting game development would be absolutely glorious. And now it looks like we're finally going to see it. Naturally, the big one on this list, the one I can't wait to see take shape, is Outrun. If I'm being completely honest, there has been a theoretical Outrun 3 living rent-free in my head for the better part of a decade, which may be the subject of a future Patrick's Pitch segment. And although I've always known that would never come to pass, I'm up for pretty much anything that falls in line with the design of the first 2 games in the series. Outrun is just one of those franchises permanently fused to the soul of the arcades, even when you take it out of the arcades. It would be very difficult for Sega to get this one wrong, and once they finally announce it outright, it will go right up near or at the top of my most anticipated games list. There is, of course, one last game that did not appear in either the Power Surge trailer or the subsequent trademark filings, and that's Virtua Fighter 6. I clearly wasn't the only one who noticed that either, as Tekken lead producer Katsuhiro Harada, who is clearly a fan of the series in his own right and has hosted teases of a new installment on his podcast, called Sega out directly on Twitter following the Power Surge reveal trailer, asking them where it is. There's so much smoke surrounding Virtua Fighter 6 that there has to be fire. But when it will be revealed, and whether it has anything to do with the Power Surge in particular, still remains to be seen. It's obvious that Sega has decided that their greatest hopes for success lie in winding their philosophy back to what it was just after they scuttled the Dreamcast, and keep developing software as though the major shift in their content strategy that came around 2003 or 2004 never happened. I'm completely on board with this because that's really the best version of Sega, and seeing it operate in the current gaming landscape is exactly what 9th Gen needs. All this as Sega has appointed company veteran Shuji Utsumi as president and COO, as well as CEO of the North American and European branches. So who is Shuji Utsumi? Simply put, he's someone with a resume that just about anyone in the game industry would envy. He helped launch the PlayStation in North America, then the Dreamcast. After that, he moved on to Disney, where he played a crucial role in linking the company up with Square Enix for the creation of the Kingdom Hearts series, before helping industry legend Tetsuya Mizuguchi form Q Entertainment, who would go on to make such games as Meteos, Child of Eden, and, critically, Luminous. Clearly, Utsumi has a Midas touch in the game industry, and, most importantly, he has strong ties to some of Sega's most defining years, which coincides remarkably well with this renaissance the company is pivoting toward with the Power Surge. In fact, I'd call him the ideal candidate to oversee this chapter of Sega's history. I say all this to underline the fact that Sega's Power Surge initiative isn't a simple marketing campaign. It's a full-scale course correction in line with things like the rise of Asano Studio and, to a lesser degree, Tokyo RPG Factory under Yosuke Matsuda at Square Enix. It is a genuine effort to steer Sega toward being the very best version of themselves over the course of many years. Hopefully we see more franchises join this push, like Hang On, Phantasy Star, Space Harrier, Skies of Arcadia, Virtual On, Sega Rally, Shining Force, and maybe, just maybe, Virtua Racing? How about all of you? What Sega franchises would you like to see revisited as part of this refresh of the company's identity? Let me know down in the comments and let's get talking about it. That's all for now. If you like this video, then please be sure to tell YouTube all about it with your like, your comment, share, subscribe. We're still pushing hard to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. And if you're not already one of them, it would be great to have you join us. Click the notification bell to know right away when the next video is out. I look forward to seeing you back here next time at Little Akiba Games.